This is a special News Center 7 presentation from WHIO TV.
I just keep thinking that it's still unbelievable to me, unfathomable, that we would have 15 tornadoes in one night.
Now we're getting a tornado emergency. We have several tornado warnings that are ongoing in the Miami Valley, and this is a dangerous situation that has been ongoing as this, I'm sorry, I'm getting choked. I'm thinking people are dying.
We do now have one confirmed fatality in Salina. So we have been going all morning, hoping that moment wouldn't happen, but it did.
She told me that losing Dale, their next door neighbor, Dale Hanna, those were the only tears she shed.
This was much different because it tore apart the Miami Valley.
WHIO just learned a tornado that hit Trotwood and Dayton was in fact an EF4 tornado.
Yeah, I'm looking around and I just couldn't believe what I was looking at.
What I would basically describe as an entire neighborhood leveled.
And I know that it's just going to take a really long time to get everything back together.
I'm happy that there were many lives saved.
And that's probably the most amazing thing to me.
To hear stories of folks say that I was almost sucked in by the tornado.
No roof, and then I looked up like this under the mattress, I seen the thing going like this, great with garbage.
To not be sucked away, that's a miracle. That's a miracle.
It hit everywhere in so many different places, and everyone is coming together from other places.
They didn't need to know their first name or their last name. They didn't even need to know their address. They just wanted to help.
No one called them, no one recruited them. They're walking through the neighborhood with bottles of water. What I think it's done more than anything is bring the community together.
I see resilience already. And I know we're strong. We are 937 strong. We are Miami Valley strong. We are Dayton, Trotwood, Brookville strong. And I know that we will bounce back.
The conditions of the environment just were coming together as we were getting into the late day evening hours. By 10 p.m., you can see north of I-70 is where the greatest risk for those storms will be located, but there's still the potential that some storms may fire off south of I-70 as well.
Looking at the soundings of the atmosphere, it didn't look like a tornado threat early on. The tornado threat was more into Illinois and Indiana.
We had kind of expected thunderstorms, had seen what was going on in Indiana, so I said, just a heads up, I'll set my alarm a little earlier, around 11:45. I'll wake up, get in, and we could finish whatever storms are out there, basically.
And I knew that there was severe weather that was impending later that day, but frankly, no idea that we were going to see a tornado outbreak as epic as what we saw.
Going back to before that event actually happened, 2 weeks prior, I went to a weather conference, and we do case studies there. One of the case studies was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. One of them was in Atlanta, Georgia, and you can see all of these outbreaks and, large tornadoes and how they're forming. And so the day of, I'm starting to see all these things coming together, these new tools that I had learned, and one particular thing from the Storm Prediction Center said that we would be 15 times more likely to have a tornado that day. And those storms are gathering off to our west. Where you see all of this shaded red, that's actually a tornado watch that is out for northern Illinois and northwestern Indiana. And I mentioned that to Dante.
The National Weather Service and the Storm Prediction Center also thought the same thing because they eventually put a tornado watch into Ohio as well. So maybe 1 or 2 quick spin up tornadoes. And then we realized that, okay, this is probably a little bigger of a threat.
We're getting past sunset. I'm expecting that, we may have a little bit of stabilization, but that's not what happened. In fact, it just appeared that the conditions just kept heightening.
At this point, we are not under a tornado watch, but it's quite possible that we may be put under one as we head towards 8, 9 o'clock.
We had a front that was coming through, a warm front, and so that lifts the air. And then with that, we had a lot of turning of the winds with height in the atmosphere.
And more or less just the clashing of air masses that set up near where that jet stream had developed the way it did. Tons of moisture in the air that supplied it as well, and it was more or less the perfect storm.
And that was the first time I'd ever seen that type of rotation, that many areas of rotation, and I was like, oh my goodness.
I started to feel the anxiety building before the event because I knew, oh, this is going to be a really big deal, and I had to take my deep breaths as I was watching the tornado warnings just to our west and knowing this is it. This is going to be a long night. And then as soon as that warning came in, I was ready. I had prepped the director and everybody that needed to know, listen, once this warning goes, we're going.
McCall, possibly severe weather tonight.
Yeah, we have another round of thunderstorms developing to our west. You can see there is a tornado watch out for northwestern Indiana. We'll keep an eye on those storms as they move on in.
And I said to Cheryl, we're probably going to be here late tonight.
Before I left, I said, am I okay to leave? You don't think any of this activity is going to start right away? She goes, you'll probably be fine till after 8 o'clock.
And then it was probably around that 8:30, 9 o'clock that I just saw back to our west in Indiana that tornado warnings were going. And I could see the environment that was in the Miami Valley, and I knew they were going to come in.
And I was sitting at my desk just after 9, and I saw the email that Wayne County, Indiana had a tornado warning. And I looked up at the monitor above my desk, and I saw McCall on the air.
I'm Storm Center 7 Chief Meteorologist McCall Vrydaghs, breaking into programming because a severe thunderstorm warning and a tornado warning has just been issued for the far western part of our viewing area.
So as it's our usual practice, the anchor who's here, and it was my night to work, got my stuff together and went down to the studio to kind of be her backup.
And then all of a sudden, a circulation just fired off in Mercer County.
And now we are unfortunately near Salina getting reports of debris that's on potentially a tornado on the ground.
And that was the first debris signature that I saw. Debris signatures are things that we use with radar products that tell us a tornado has definitely touched down. So that's when I knew, even if it was just that one community, this was a big deal.
May have been some lowering of that cloud base. It was hard to tell. I wanted to get a closer
look. It sort
look.
of came down pretty low to the ground, and then it got worse and worse, and we saw the tornado warnings move into our area at Preble County, Darke County, Mercer County.
And then it escalated from there. Then we had a couple of circulations that were going into Miami County and up towards Ludlow Falls and Laura. That one showed a debris signature. That was the one that started to make me emotional.
You're part of a sturdy structure. Get there now. This is a dangerous situation that has been ongoing as this, I'm sorry, I'm getting choked.
I'm thinking people are dying.
I thought it's very likely right now that people are losing their lives. They're suffering serious injury. I knew people were losing homes, belongings, and just thinking chances are people are dying right now.
And I hope that they were watching.
We need to be in our safe spots right now, Cheryl.
They have tornado sirens going off.
I could tell. I mean, I know them. And with the warnings popping up and the way that they handled that, I could tell that this was something.
All I could think of was, what can I say that's going to keep people safe? What do they need to hear right now? Get the bike helmets on them. Put them in the basement, put the helmets on them. Do whatever you can to stay safe. We care about you. This is not a time to think about anything looking silly. Please stay safe.
Then a couple more circulations popped up in Auglaize County. We had one that eventually was in Logan County.
This is potentially a tornado that is forming. This is the one just to the west of New Madison.
Before long, she's dealing with 6 tornado warnings at once.
Pretty much the same time the Ludlow Falls thing is happening, that massive circulation starts in Montgomery County.
And now now we're getting a tornado emergency coming in for Montgomery County. That is the highest level of warnings that you can get for this type of situation. And it took me about 1 or 2 seconds to really realize what that was, because it was so much bigger than the other ones in just the size. This is an atypical hook echo. This is awful. And because of how close I can get with radar and use the tools, I could see that there are all these streets and all these homes. When this is the hook, and this is where that debris and where that possible tornado is happening right now. I'm not going to say possible, this is a tornado that is happening.
It's very terrifying because when you're seeing that debris signature, that means that things are being lofted in the air, and at that point it was such a tight area of rotation moving through our main county. You don't know if it's buildings or if at that point who's in that building, who's surviving.
Very, very tight. Rotation is still being clearly depicted. I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, I hope that all these people have been watching. I hope they got the warning. I hope that they're in their safe spot. There's a lot that's going on in my mind. So I knew Dante and I knew Letitia were in the path.
When she said, Trotwood needs to take cover now.
A very large, dangerous tornado on the ground.
I sat up in the bed and then I heard this huge gush of wind, something I've never heard before.
Circulation is right overhead, and this is a very scary and potentially deadly situation at this point.
So I popped out of bed and I went and got in the closet too. And that's something that I've never done before.
And then there was at one point where it was heading east and starting to make its right-hand turn, and I knew our location at the station. So I'm having also an internal conversation at one point. I'm thinking, I have about 2 radar scans before I need to tell Cheryl and everybody in this building that they need to go to their safe spot and just leave the camera up.
I made sure everybody was safe in my family while I'm also in the booth trying to make sure that our crews are staying safe, that we're on air, that we're giving the most up-to-date information as possible, all while trying to protect my family at the same time. It was chaos.
And if it continued on its trajectory, would be moving towards Treebine and eventually down towards Xenia.
And I live in Xenia Township, just outside of the city, so those 2 systems that they were tracking were right around my house.
And I'm not leaving my house just yet because I've been watching you on the television, and it's just not safe for me to go anywhere. And I can really hear the thunder, and it's shaking my house.
That's terrifying for me to know that my coworker is like in the path of this tornado, and she just hung up on us.
This is Traffic Tracker. This is on I-70 in Huber Heights. I would say whoever is driving that car needs to find a safe spot.
We actually had to tell them, like, pull over to the side, stop driving. The storm is over you, the tornado is over you.
Like, you have to go straight south or you have to go straight north. Like, you cannot go east or west because you are directly in the line of this tornado.
We are dealing with a catastrophic event that is happening in western parts of Montgomery County.
And at the same time, I've got my other phone out and I'm trying to call my wife. I think I called her 10 different times trying to wake her up because I'm listening as this storm is closing in on Beaver Creek.
South of the Fairfield Commons.
I hear Kemp Road, Grange Hall Road. That's not far from where we live. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my wife is in bed right now. She's a heavy sleeper. I've got to wake her up and get her to the closet.
Okay, there may be considerable damage happening here. And the stress of the 6 tornado warnings going on at the same time. And this is not a drill, people. This has been ongoing, and we've had several reports of damage. And I know that Dante, once he joins in with us here, he was driving through a lot of these same areas.
By the time I got to the station, looked up at the radar screen, there were 6 tornado warnings, and probably about 4 or 5 of those were actually tornadoes that were on the ground.
And these are some very strong storms and some possibly very strong tornadoes as well.
And you're saying, I hope they really heed this one, because this is out of the ordinary. This isn't a barn in Auglaize County somewhere. This is actually a highly populated area. And how do I get this message across to them and say, you really need to take cover?
This is not good. This is not good. I was thinking, I just need to let as many people know that this is a serious situation, that this is life-threatening. This is a situation unlike any other tornado event we've had in the Miami Valley.
That was the message that McCall and then Dante, when he joined us a little bit later, were trying to get across that night, is just, we feel so responsible for our viewers, for the people in the Miami Valley, because they could be losing all their belongings right now. They could be losing their lives. And you're on I-70, get off. If you're in western Montgomery County, do not be there. Get off the highway.
And we have some people dispatched going to check on some possible damage or debris in that area. Gather your family and get to your safe spot.
I can't remember a night like this. I just keep thinking that it's still unbelievable to me, unfathomable, that we would have 15 tornadoes in one night. I was in high school when the big EF5 hit Xenia, and some of my friends were affected by that, and that became the benchmark by which all of our storms, our tornadoes, were measured.
But I can still remember the stories of my parents. They lost friends in Xenia when the tornado hit. And I can remember the emotion that they had, seeing their friends dead.
33 or 34, depending on whose count you go with, lost their lives that day.
So I grew up 10 miles away from Xenia. I wasn't in town for the Xenia tornado in 1974. I was in my second year of college down in Kentucky. But I came home real quickly that weekend and saw the devastation. And
I mean, for Xenia, they were almost flying blind. Like, we were lucky that Gil Whitney was able to call out a few of those communities in Greene County. That was a big deal.
This storm is severe, a massive storm. The track indicated by the hook in our radar screen.
But at that point, we were lucky we had a radar on television.
If you can go ahead and pull up Max 2, I'll go ahead and step in front of the screen. So we have 2 tornado warned storms.
By far, technology was one of the biggest reasons that lives were saved in this outbreak. Our radar is closer to that position, and we're able to see things better and at a higher definition than the other radars surrounding us. It's paramount. There's no way we would be able to see what's going on to the degree that we do if we didn't have this radar.
In all honesty, a lot of folks have told me that if it weren't for the app,
I got the alerts off the WHIO weather app,
alerting me,
and it was accurate,
and letting me know.
Went down to the basement.
People were getting those alerts right on their phone, and they had 10 minutes to get inside.
So again, from the National Weather Service, a confirmed tornado, and then me being able to tune into you all on the TV side to realize what was going on, I would have never known.
This is a very serious situation, as McCall is pointing out, so we want everyone in our viewing area, we care about you, we want you to be safe tonight. In my almost 38 years at Channel 7, it was the most important night I've ever worked, because there were so many people affected and so many areas affected, and the warnings were so important, so critical to save people's lives. Don't take it lightly. Please go to your safe spot. So to get thanks from people and for people to say that you guys saved my life, it's the most rewarding thing ever.
Everywhere I go, I hear thank you to Cheryl and to McCall and to our entire team for what we do.
Thank you for warning us, for telling us. Thank you to your meteorologist. Tell McCall, thank you.
It was her humanity and the tone in her voice that made us realize, oh, we got to go to the basement now.
I kept hearing stories about people telling me, you know, their husband's always stubborn about storms, doesn't want to go downstairs, doesn't want to go in the basement.
You need to be in your safe spot, as there's the possibility of some rotation there.
McCall got through to their husband, and that he finally went to wherever the safe spot was.
I'm sorry. At first, after it all happened, I was somewhat, I don't know if embarrassed is the right word, that I got emotional, because my job is not to get emotional, my job is to be there. But then to get the reaction that because of my raw emotion and showing that I do care for the community, did what it should have done, is to get people into their safe spot.
And Sean Cuddy, he's on the phone in Salina. Sean, what are you seeing?
As I walk back there on, it was Bruns Avenue, I'm looking around and I see houses that are destroyed, I see roofs that are torn off, I see debris everywhere I'm looking on the ground.
We're actually not even able to get back into the areas where there's damage right now because they said it's too dangerous to even drive. They said there's so much debris it would actually pop our tires.
And his experience, I know, was crazy, pulling up and seeing what looked like a bomb went off in this little neighborhood.
And I think I even described a smell of sewage. You know, I don't know if that was pipes that were burst open, but yeah, I'm looking around and I just couldn't believe what I was looking at. What I would basically describe as an entire neighborhood leveled as part of that storm earlier this evening. Houses just absolutely destroyed.
Thinking that that was just one of them, to think that that happened in a couple other locations that we couldn't even get to at that time.
Daylight will really show us what we're looking at, but right now, even in the dark, you can see the devastation. You know, you had to work to hold back the tears. It was just heartbreaking.
Immediately they said, we need you to get out to Brookville. The roof of the school is gone. So we got out there, it was around 1 a.m. at that point.
From the front of the school, it doesn't look like there's much damage.
Because it was so dark, we weren't able to see the damage that had been done.
I knew it was real listening to it on the way in. It hit a different level when I saw it.
And I said earlier, we couldn't find the roof to the high school. It was blown back behind there.
So when I realized that the entire metal roof was gone, hopefully there was no one inside at the time. What are these kids going to do for the next week?
These trees are down everywhere. By that time, I was getting alerts that there may be people trapped in Greene County, in Beaver Creek, specifically around Grange Hall, Kemp Road. And traffic doesn't see the trees down. It's just dark.
We're going to stop this driver. Hey, don't go. Excuse me. Sorry, this is what we've been doing today, trying to make sure. It's so dark, you just can't see. Sorry about that. Don't want you to be safe.
And they did come back and they told me thank you because they didn't see it. They didn't see the wires.
Working in the morning, we were there as people were coming outside for the first time.
Roger, can you tell me, you said this woke you up last night?
Yes, it did. I was about to sleep about 11:30 and I heard a loud crash and a noise. I walked out and this is what I seen.
So that was very, very hard to just still do your job and be a reporter and tell everyone else what's happening as these people are coming out of their homes and realizing that everything they've worked for is gone in just one night.
It's destroyed me.
Once I went into work and then I saw the damage for Beaver Creek, I realized this wasn't just a one city tornado. Everybody had extreme damage and there were a lot of people that were going to need help.
But when you get into the neighborhoods and you're talking with a woman who, you know, my 90-year-old neighbor barely got down to her basement before her house came crumbling on top of her, and you see them start crying, how do you remain okay, impartial, and strong in that point?
The Xenia tornado was a special devastation because it tore apart one city. This was much different because it tore apart the Miami Valley.
every place you look. Dozens of communities heavily damaged, if not some destroyed. So that was a surreal moment to see the helicopter that I had spent so many hours of my career in, now above the devastation here in the Miami Valley.
While I was on TV watching it, I got a sense that Trotwood was one of the hardest hit areas.
It's a very difficult situation right now as that we have so much damage.
I remember the first time we showed Hara Arena.
We've got some take a look. This is my neck of the woods. This is the former Hara Arena there on Shiloh Springs Road in Trotwood.
But if you could have seen my face, I just was heartbroken.
And then the injuries started coming, and we confirmed a couple of people were in the ICU.
Upwards of 80, I think, injuries around the Miami Valley that we have counted so far. We did expect those numbers to go up. So far, still no deaths, which is the good news.
I'm going to interrupt you here.
Yes.
So there was a turning point in the broadcast for me where I basically stopped doing everything. This is the most unfortunate moment of the morning broadcast.
Gosh.
We do now have one confirmed fatality in Salina. So we have been going all morning, hoping that moment wouldn't happen, but it did. That someone had lost their life. It was emotional for me.
His next door neighbor, the couple we talked to, they lost their home. They survived because they got into their basement at the last second.
I kept saying it's a rumbling. It sounds like a train. Run now.
The wife, Wendy, she told me that even after losing their home and after all that damage we saw, she told me that losing Dale, their next door neighbor, Dale Hanna, she told me that those were the only tears she shed.
This, it's a life. He didn't make it.
I don't care how often you cover a natural disaster, it still impacts you because these are people's lives.
There was a gentleman who lost his home near West Milton. Me and Jess Mag were there.
And so he told me they got the warnings and they decided obviously to go into the basement at that point. Good call because they were completely safe in the basement.
Defended from anything that was flying around. They were completely untouched, totally safe. I want to take you up to the second level.
And when we walked upstairs, suddenly saw there was no roof.
So he likely saved his family's life by deciding to immediately head to the basement. When he did, it was a great call.
"11 years of memory in rubble, it hurt, sadness, fear."
People were really questioning at that point, where's my next meal gonna come from? How am I gonna feed my kids? I've got a hole in my house, I have so many different problems.
You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find that fighter, and I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out and move mountains. We gon' walk it out and move mountains.
We had 100 hamburgers, 100 hot dogs, and some water. We were going to cook it up and serve a hot meal for dinner.
People were so grateful to even get like a bag of chips, a hot dog, a hamburger, and you would have thought that they had won the lottery just because they got this meal from somebody.
It just feels good helping out the local community and helping everybody out.
I heard a lot of grateful people.
You don't understand how much this means to somebody right now.
Just thankful for life.
This is your home. Bless you.
And thankful that their neighbors were still here and they could share in their horror stories. And that's really what it was. It was a story of horror that they lived through and they lived to tell about it.
And the mattress flew on top of us, then all the furniture just flew all on top of the mattress. Then the roof just boom.
To hear stories of folks say that I was almost sucked in by the tornado, but I had to grab and hold on to something to not be sucked away. That's a miracle.
One of the first ladies I talked to was out in Trotwood. And, there's that shock. They have that shock. But then it's surprising how, I think, resilient, how optimistic they are about what they're going to do next.
But it's so refreshing and just encouraging to see our community just come together and support each other.
If you look at the damage, and I tell people this all the time, my pictures really don't do it justice. You have to see this to understand it. And I decided I wanted to go see what was in there. I was looking for something that would say something church-wise. You can see the roof laying down on the pews. You see the picture of Jesus Christ walking on the water. So I think that kind of says it all. These people are basically walking on water because they survived this.
And that's probably the most amazing thing to me, is that one person lost his life. And as tragic as that is, for so much destruction to happen all over the place and not a lot of serious injuries, I think is pretty short of amazing.
And I'll rise up high like the waves. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise up and I'll do it 1,000 times again.
I already see signs of us rising. I see a lot of positive things happening. People who thought it would take weeks or months just to get their yards cleaned up. People came in one weekend and helped them, and now they're feeling a lot better about it. There's a lot of good that's going to come out of this.
I am blown away how amazing the Dayton area is. I was out in Trotwood and was talking to people whose houses were just torn apart, didn't have food, didn't have water, didn't have lights, and they were just, happy to be alive, grateful, thankful. They're just pleasant people, and yet there's total chaos going on behind them. It's like a juxtaposition to see that in the background and them in the foreground standing so strong.
This new Center 7 special presentation, The Memorial Day Tornadoes, A Community Rises, is brought to you commercial-free by Premier Health, Logan AC and Heat Services, and Handyman Ace Hardware.
But I'll rise up high like the waves. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I will rise 1,000 times again, and I'll rise up high like the waves. I'll rise up. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you.
As horrible an event as it was, it's such a unifying event too. You wonder if there's some divine intervention to say, look folks, you're a great community and we're going to prove it. This is happening right now.
We've had at least 7 cars walk by offering food and water.
So in the midst of all of this physical devastation around us, I heard stories of hope.
To see something like this, of everyone coming together, being like we're on the same page, we're all struggling, we all need help, is, I think, hope.
Even those who lost everything were wondering, top of mind, how can we help? And that for me was very encouraging.
I just felt like, God was watching over us and protected us, and like he did a lot of people. And so we survived.
And I've heard those stories before with tornadoes and flooding, and how, you really see the love of the community.
It's great. This is the way it should be. And there's no color in this. Yeah. There's no color. This is all from the heart. So, this is what we're supposed to do.
But one of the neatest things was when we were walking through Trotwood, and an older woman had come out of her house.
No, we're just blessed. Yeah. We're still here because this was, look at all that.
And she had this beautiful grill.
I said, I'm getting ready to fire this grill up. I'd rather cook my meat than let it spoil.
And I was like, Janet, that was so sweet of you. But she did. She just was so nonchalant and just had such I'm fine though. Everyone we met was, well, I'm okay. You should really see the neighbors behind us.
We went down the street and I see the houses down there. We're kind of lucky. I just felt like the whole house was about to move.
Even that first day, we're talking 12 hours into this storm, going on 24, and people are just in this Northridge community just swarming. I mean, they've got food, they've got water, they've got clothes. And, you know, I am mid-interview with this woman, and these people come up and they're like, do you need anything? You know, can we do anything for you? Are you a praying person? Can we pray with you?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for keeping these folks safe.
But just the human-to-human compassion, it was just insurmountable. Such a beautiful moment. And, you know, the woman is in tears. I'm over here almost in tears. And that was just the attitude of people, though. What can I do for you? After I'm done with you, like, I'm gonna go to the next house and the next house. It never stopped.
You will be totally blown away. All you have to do is walk through the neighborhood. You'll find volunteers there. You'll find people who are donating water.
Yeah, I just really want to help my neighborhood, help everybody in the community.
I saw people just literally, no one called them, no one recruited them. They're walking through the neighborhood with bottles of water to give them to anyone who will take it.
Going all over. Whoever needs water, they're getting it.
You look one way, there's kids carrying big pallets of water. I mean, you don't have to look far to find people helping, and I think not just I, but folks that I've talked to that have suffered have been blown away by the way this community has stepped in to help.
And there's this little guy, and he was 4, 5, 6 years old, but man, he was carrying that case of water.
Yeah!
And he was helping people showing up, don't even know so many of these victims, but they didn't need to know their first name or their last name. They didn't even need to know their address. They just wanted to help. And you know what? It's that human spirit and that resiliency that we have. At the end of the day, I couldn't be more proud of.
Is when you literally see neighbors helping neighbors, communities coming together to do everything that they can. It's not necessarily a story that we did, but you see the video, we talk about it, but then you drive around and you see people just setting cases of water and some food on those street corners. And not, trying to hand it out or anything like that, but just setting it there for people to come get as they want.
Everybody was really resolved to, hey, let's clean up, let's help our neighbors, let's get things done.
I have raked up my yard with complete strangers. I can't even explain the kindness and the generosity of people I've never seen in my life.
And I think that's just a testament to this Dayton sort of can-do spirit that's sort of always been the way our town is. You got a problem, just, everyone's gonna have to pitch in. We're not gonna wait for the federal government to come help us because we know that's gonna be a while, and everybody just said, well, we gotta do it ourselves.
One of the first things I saw, moments, maybe minutes after this whole storm had gone through Beaver Creek, there was a family and they were cutting up trees, and I asked them, okay, why are you doing this? They said, well, my neighbor has a heart condition, and if he needs to go somewhere, we need to clear his path. So moments after the storm, people that had lost a lot were helping other people right away, and I just thought that was beautiful.
Just to see so many just everyday people out in these neighborhoods helping people they didn't even know. I was at Brookville High School, students who graduated and who are, coming up.
It was kind of upsetting because I finished my whole high school career there and it's just got ruined in one night.
I said, it's your summer vacation, what are you doing? And they're spending it volunteering.
But what you saw though, you saw athletes coming together. You saw the Trotwood football team out cutting down a huge tree that had fallen in the yard of one of their teachers, one of their favorite teachers at Trotwood.
She do everything for me in the school, keep me good, make sure I ate good in school. I gotta help her.
It wasn't just a teacher. They were going door to door, doing what they could.
And I remember being in awe of 2 business owners. They own this giant sports complex, right, that had just been absolutely crushed.
We're just fortunate that there were no fatalities in this situation. It is a devastating loss, but it's a great opportunity for us to look at how we can impact the youth of the Dayton area.
That was such a breath of fresh air. Lord only knows the next time they'll be able to open their doors to let people come in and play the sports that they love. And all they really cared about is that no one was hurt in their facility. And that was such a cool moment for me.
The stories of folks helping others and making a difference, whether it was that trooper who told us that he was listening to our coverage.
Talking about how the tornado is actively on the ground going through Harrison Township, and it was coming up to 75.
He had to get to Wagner Ford in 75, he knew. He pulls up 3 minutes after the twister comes through there, that monster EF4 that raked across the highway there.
Parts of that building had just been blown all over the interstate. I had trees over the interstate. I had multiple cars crashed on the roadway.
He finds this family from Georgia. Their van was impaled by a steel stud that had come from a building that they're just constructing across the highway. Just misses their daughter.
It was literally that far from puncturing through her rear seat where she was sitting. So for a parent to see all this, not understand what's going on, trying to put it all together and to see that your daughter was that close to death, they were just in shock.
State trooper loading up 2 families in 2 of his troopers' cars, getting them to the hospital.
I don't know how all we walked away with was scrapes and bruises.
One story I covered was about a man who was driving on 75 when the tornado passed right in front of him. And so he got out of his car to get into a ditch, like he said he was trained to do. He thinks he was hit by a tree.
Knocked me unconscious. I woke up in the ditch.
A trooper ended up saving him, which is, you know, miraculous.
How you feeling, sir?
That was a really special moment because you could just tell how thankful the man was to be meeting the person who he says saved his life. It was really, really important, I think, to be there and to witness that moment, to see the gratitude there.
It makes me super grateful that he's still here, and that's why I joined the law enforcement to you know, to make a difference and to help people out.
There was 2 local doctors that really wanted to give a distraction to children because, you know, they're going through it too.
This is an emotional event. You know, they're going to be dealing with this for years, and we wanted to give them something for the kids and the families to take their mind off of all of this.
Any kid that I've talked to has said, it was scary. I am scared. I'm afraid of future storms.
I'm scared of like loud sounds and tornadoes and rain.
If it thunders or rains, I feel like there's going to be another tornado.
I know sometimes children might not talk about what they're feeling or how they're feeling about it, but I think it's just so cool to see that people are just doing little things.
Let them run around, play some games, and just enjoy being a kid and not have to worry about the devastation.
Whether it's making food, you know, throwing a little party for children, or just, you know, giving a smile about this all, or just talking to them, I think that's what's really neat, how this community is really coming together just to help each other.
I think the example of that for me was I talked to Catherine Claiborne's husband, and that's the Harrison Township woman that had been reported missing just a couple hours before the storm hit, and then 8 days after, searchers finally found her. And he was telling me, and it just seemed to hit home with me more than anything else, was Bob Claiborne said,
what I discovered is that my community was my family. I just hadn't met them.
It seemed like a very good way of putting it.
The interesting thing about this is it hit everywhere in so many different places, and everyone is coming together from other places.
There's a family in Northridge who actually runs a food pantry. That is something they have done for years. They feed people in these very communities that were hit hard. They lost their home. They were very fortunate. They actually were out of town and were driving back and could have driven right into the storm. So they were not injured, but they did. Their home was mostly destroyed, and they were right back to running their food pantry.
You talk about the damage, but you also talk about the resiliency of people. You know, I had people in Springfield with me, downtown Springfield, organizing things, putting things together, saying, all right, Dayton may be 40 minutes away from us, 30 miles, but what can we do? We need to do something.
Our neighbors needed our help, and so we just kind of came together as a group.
Because, you know, it's a 937 thing. I like to look at it like that instead of, you know, it's not just a Dayton thing, it's all of us. How can we help? What can we do?
This woman was looking through rubble. She had been in her closet whenever the tornado hit, and pretty much her entire house was gone except for that closet. And her brother's ashes were in a ceramic urn, porcelain urn, on top of her fireplace. Well, the fireplace was made of brick, and it was just kind of scattered all over the ground. You know, there was nothing left of it. And these 2 men who had just met her were digging through and found her brother's ashes. That, you know, the urn was still intact, even though everything around it was gone. And it's been crazy to hear and see and tell stories like that where, you know, the entire house is gone, but the one room that they were in, they're okay and that's still standing.
He stuck his hands and his head in there, searched around, pulled out his, this it? It's like, yes, that's my brother Jeff. It was the event of the day.
It was pure emotional for both, I know for both of us, and it just made everything in a way worth it out here being here, because that's what it is. It's about them, it's not about us.
There was a man who knew that his 7-year-old little girl just wanted her American Girl doll. It didn't matter that their house was sitting on a slant, probably very unsafe to go into. He knew that.
This is the stairs over here that we had to go through to get the doll.
He fought through plaster, made it upstairs, ended up getting the little girl her doll. And then there's a picture of him standing on the roof, victorious, holding the doll. You know, this family has been through so much. They're now living in a motel. The kids are so scared about what happened to them. But to have that little sense of normalcy, I think is so relatable for so many people.
This is the crib where I found the American Girl doll. I should probably get that out, huh?
The crib, I don't know if it's like gone or broken.
Timothy trusted us with this important update. It's in our car right now.
What? Oh my God.
Do you want to go get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
Oh my God.
Tucked away safely in our news car.
I'm feeling really happy.
Was the crib.
Oh my God.
That upped the emotion.
Now I feel super, super happy. Like really happy.
So seeing that really personal connection and the happiness come from such a tragedy has been really special.
I'm big on Twitter. I'm a huge follower of all kinds of people, mostly politics, but a little bit of, for entertainment purposes, a lot of comedians who come through the Miami Valley. One of those comedians, his name is Mike Birbiglia. He's a New York guy, he does a lot of work on Netflix, and he's been through the Miami Valley many, many, many times. And this guy, out of the blue, decided he is going to donate $1,000 to the food bank, which was awesome. I think that's great. But my initial call was to the food bank saying, is this for real? Is this really happening? Is there a comedian nationally known who's raising money for the food bank in Dayton, Ohio? And they said, yes, this is awesome. They were so appreciative.
And then he donated, and then he got others to donate, and it's just been massive, the response.
We broke the story at noon. At that time, it was about $15,000 raised. Just within a couple of hours, at 5 o'clock, it was up to $55,000.
Cody Latimer left the New York Giants practice facility. He was supposed to be practicing for the coming NFL season. His coaches let him away to come home so he could spend a day or so back here providing money, providing some kind of comfort to the people of his community.
And what hit me yesterday was the one lady telling me just having the storm debris moved.
A week ago, I was standing in the front yard wondering where I even start, knowing that they're so close to home. They took the whole day off. I mean, people don't realize the cost that they're donating their cost for a day. I mean, that's amazing.
Just trying to put some smiles on faces. There was a young lady just made the whole trip all the worthwhile, thanking us for cleaning up her mom's house.
And just to know that we might potentially have this somewhat cleared because they have a ton of trucks.
It just hit me that, you know, here, something as simple as this group coming in and moving storm debris, like that really did touch me, that she was just saying that I don't have to look at it anymore, and that makes me feel good. That just so resonated with me.
They're going to rebuild, you know, they're looking out for their neighbors. They're saying, hey, this person doesn't have insurance. We're going to try and find them a way to rebuild, and we're going to help them out in any way we can. And I think that's been kind of a concern of, do these neighborhoods come back? But I think if they continue with the attitude that the folks seem to have, I think they will come back.
Through it all, I've never doubted that the Miami Valley is going to rebound from this and be even better.
I think we go up. I think we move forward. We've done it before, we'll do it again. I think that this is a very resilient community filled with lots of love. So I think we will go forward, we will build again, we'll be newer, shinier, brighter, newer, better in days to come.
In this part of the country, it's been rough for us the last 15 years. But man, we got tough people here. We have people who are resilient, people who are going to get back up off the ground and go to work.
The Miami Valley has a long, long history of coming together after all kinds of calamities. Probably the biggest was the flood, 1913.
That attitude permeates into something like this. We have the flood and we're going to make the best flood control system in the nation, right? We have this happen and we're going to come back so much stronger. We're going to figure out how to fix things and do it better than anybody else.
The city had to figure it out itself. Industry literally came to a stop and transformed. The Great Dayton Flood is what really kind of set the tone for people being able to put everything aside and spend the next day or week or month or year in trying to save people.
The resiliency is there, and it's already starting to shine through with all of the organizations and just the individuals, individually and collectively that are coming together to help in some way, whether that's making sandwiches and passing them out, whether that's going through your own closet and picking out clothes that someone else would really appreciate now, whether it's helping a neighbor or someone you don't even know move debris and clear their yard. I see resilience already.
And they're not really waiting for any government agencies or waiting for anyone else to come and help them. They're doing it themselves. They're rallying around themselves to rebuild.
How are you all doing? How are you feeling? How are your spirits? We're blessed. Yes. We're blessed because, we survived.
And the pride that I think it brings out in the community, even in our own lives, sometimes it takes a tragic event to get us to take stock in what we have. And so I think that's what's been happening in a lot of these communities.
But I know that we'll be fine, and that this community, just in the brief moments I've been able to talk to people, they've blown me away. So I have faith. I have faith in the Miami Valley that we'll be okay. I'm thinking about everyone else, and that is just really hard to comprehend because it just is going to take a lot of time to get these places back together completely.
And I think that that's kind of the emotional roller coaster of it all. It's not done, and it's going to continue going. And then not only that, these are people's memories that, will continue with it.
I've seen the resiliency of this community, and man alive, it is just as powerful as some of those storms that rolled through. It's gonna take us a while. It's not gonna be quick. We're gonna be okay, and we're gonna get through it together.
We have a long way to go. Some of these areas, it's going to take them many months, maybe years, to completely recover.
Food is what tornado victims need right now, and they will need that food in the coming weeks.
Immediately, our employees wanted to help. We found out food was the #1 need. Some people lost everything, or couldn't go to work, or make it to a grocery store, or didn't have power for a refrigerator. So we partnered with the Dayton Food Bank and we went right into the devastated communities. Our goal was to raise $20,000. Thanks to the generosity of this community, we quickly raised more than $170,000. And the Cox Foundation added another $120,000 for widespread disaster relief. The Cox family was here for Dayton's first disaster in 1913, and we are here to help today, 106 years later.
And so you go home at the end of the day and you look around at everything in your life and you become so much more grateful and humbled by all the things that you've been blessed with. And it really does inspire a generous quality in you to say, I'm fortunate, but these people are not right now, and what can I do for them?
Got another one?
Focus on the simple things that really make a difference, that make a difference in our own lives, and then in the lives of our friends and family, and in the lives of strangers. It's the simple things.
And I think by telling these stories of hope and continuing to tell the community, what we still need here is going to play a vital role in how we recover from this.
You can kick us, try to keep us down, but this community is not gonna tolerate that. And no matter if you're a professional athlete at the highest part of your game or somebody who's struggling paycheck to paycheck, if they have the ability either way to help out their neighbors, they're going to.
You heard over and over how people met their neighbors and got to know their neighbors even more than they ever had before, and got a stronger sense of community than they'd ever had before.
And I actually think a lot of times it gives people the ability to rebuild and start over. Now I think that the homes and the buildings will just match their spirit.
It's a moment in time that we all share. We went through it in our own different versions, some worse than others, but I'm excited to see how people rebuild and the strength of people, and it gives me new faith in humanity. Overall, I think everybody's just been charging through, and I'm proud of us.
Throughout this NewsCenter 7 special presentation, you've been hearing portions of a song called Rise Up.
A line in that song is similar to so many tornado survivor stories we have seen and heard from across the Miami Valley during the last month.
It says all we need is hope, and for that, we have each other.
We leave you now with Omega Baptist Church choir members singing that song over images of hope from our community.
And from all of us at NewsCenter 7, thank you for watching A Community Rises.
You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find that fighter, and I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out and move mountains. We gon' walk it out and move. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day, I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, high like the waves, I'll rise up, in spite of the ache, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you. When silence isn't quiet and it feels like